Dr. Jyoti Manohar, Associate Professor, Department of Statistics, PCMP College. Topic to be discussed today will be auto-regressive models. Over to Madam.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
And I think few more participants are yet to join. Not all have all are there today. Okay, hope they will be joining as we reach the practical side of it. However, good evening to all respected participants of the session. Today we are going to go to the next part of the analysis where we are trying to come up with a forecasting model for the time series, for a time series. So let me side by side share my file also. Yeah. So here we can see that I don't want it as a screen. I mean, I don't want it in a slide share. Okay, let it be. Yeah. So here we can. What do you mean by time series analysis? What is the basic purpose of time series analysis? Normally, we perform time series analysis or we analyze a time series for prediction, more than understanding, more than comprehending how the behavior of the time series is. We would always like to use past information to proceed to further or to fit a value for the upcoming time period. So auto-regressive models is one of the most basic models of time series analysis, univariate time series analysis, that too. Time series, if you are considering few time series together like how we did in co-integration or so, then we are not talking about AR model. We are talking about AR model when we have a single series and we are trying to analyze it. Now, auto-regressive, as the name suggests, the term regressive, regression, is the most powerful analytic tool in statistics which is used for forecasting, for estimation of prediction models. The most basic forecasting tool generally is regression. When it comes in regression, one of the most important assumption is that the independent variables have to be independent. They should not be correlated with each other, and also values of a variable should not be interrelated. Values of a single variable itself should not be interrelated. When it comes to time series, we know that past time points always will have an influence on present and future. Like price of gold last month might have an influence this month, or last year March April time, what was the price of gold, that might definitely have an influence on this year also, right? So or say closing price of stock market today might be influenced by yesterday. There might be definitely a push, like today if it was higher, tomorrow it might tend to be a little more higher, and again it tends to be a little more higher. At a certain point it will tend to fall, then you will find that fall decreasing trend for some time. So this is what we call as auto regression or auto correlation, a variable getting connected to its own past value. So we are making use of this property of a time series to model and come up with a prediction model which will help us to predict future. So as the name suggests, auto-regressive means self-regression. It is the time series which regress on themselves. Now the auto-regressive model is one of a group of linear prediction formulae that attempt to predict an output of a system based on previous outputs and inputs. If an observation is made at time t, then P order, the meaning of P order is how many lags would you like to refer to, like say today's price, would you today's value, if you like to depend only on yesterday's value, then the order of regression will be 1. If you like to depend on past 2 observations, then the order of lag would be 2. So the order P, what it refers to here is how many past time periods are you going to depend on. So that is what is ARP. In general, if we are referring to say P time points past, for example, 3 time periods, 3-month past data is influencing our future, then it will be order 3. And unlike regression, we don't generally write A, B, C, D. Instead, we use some notation, some Greek letters like alpha, beta, or phi, psi, etc., some mathematical symbols. are used to write this model itself. So the value of the variable at time t will be, there will be a fixed value. Most of the time there will be a constant, that's called the intercept. Need not be. If there's a trend, generally it will be there. If we want, we can avoid that also. If we feel that constant is not required, we can avoid that and perform. And then phi1 x t minus 1, the second term is coefficient of first lag period, plus phi2 x t minus 2, that will be the model, the coefficient of the value of second lag, etc. up to p lags, plus the noise or error term epsilon t. So AR model is just a function of a series based on its own past values, where epsilon or residual is actually very important in any of these kind of modeling, because it is depending on its performance that we can say whether a model is accurate or not, whether it is acceptable or not. Now the meaning of white noise just suggests that there is a specific distribution for epsilon. There is no autocorrelation, there is a constant mean, constant variance, no autocorrelation, no constant variance. So we need to have a little bit of residual analysis also after getting the model. Okay, so we will see how far we can progress today. Residual analysis probably we may not be able to. Now I just explained what is AR model. I don't know how far you have understood. AR model just suggests that coming up with a present value of a series as a function of past values. T at time t, the time series value depends on t minus 1, t minus 2, t minus 3, etc. up till p values. When it comes to the time series model, at times this epsilon, the error or white noise, also might have its a dependence with its own past values. If the residuals, that is the epsilon values, the residual or the epsilon values also depend on its own past values, they are called a moving average model. So xt does not depend on its own past value, rather it is depending on some external factors which are dependent on its own past value. So you can see that epsilon is also depending on epsilon t minus 1, epsilon t minus 2, etc. epsilon t minus q. This is what we call as an MAQ model. Okay, so a time series might be AR model or it may be MA model. It can also be a combination of both, few terms of its own value, a few terms of past value, a few terms of its own value, a few terms of past value. Okay, then now together when we combine AR and MA, we call it as an ARMA model, AR MA, autoregressive moving average model. If the series with AR and MA components are non-stationary at level, then we need to get stationarity for the series, which we have already seen in the last sessions when sir took. We already saw how we can attain stationarity for a series which is not stationary, right? So that is obtained, normally we get it by taking a differencing of the data. Sometimes we may have to take log of the series, logarithm of the series, or some transformation of similar nature. After getting, if suppose we are attaining stationarity only after an integration, say differencing the data, then that kind of a series is called ARIMA model, where that I stands for integrated, autoregressive, integrated moving average models. Autoregressive, integrated moving average models. I hope I explained it. I'll just a quick explanation once again about what I said is what all. Okay, this is where we will be filling in the practicals when we start to work. Okay, so what all we said is AR model. AR model can be, you can have AR model in different manners, that is okay, so AR models can be, if I am talking about AR1 model, it will be defined as y suffix t, right, y at time t, as a function of First, we will have a constant, say C plus alpha 1. Instead of writing phi 1, let me just give a smaller notation or an easier notation. Any notation we can use, or say beta 1, let me write. Okay. If I write it just like that, beta 1 into y t minus 1. If I write it like this, t minus 1 plus epsilon. Okay. Plus epsilon. This is what we call as AR1 model. Okay, I hope I explained it. AR1 model. Similarly, we can have AR2 model. Similarly, we can have AR2 model. So what will AR2 model be? AR2, okay, it is a suffix now. AR2 model would have, along with these terms, we will also have one more term, which is that with respect to the second time point, okay, plus epsilon. So it will be beta 2, one more coefficient, because the series is depending on past two values. Similarly, AR3. But we need to remember, generally we don't work with very long past, like 15-20 lags and all. Rarely we go for AR models, or ARMA model or ARIMA models are generally considered to be short term models. They are not normally used for very long time period. They are used for shorter time period. Okay. Then now when it comes to MA model, what happens in MA model? We don't have this self regression isn't there. Auto regression is not there. Rather, the series will be depending only on, instead of C, it's just generally written as mu. Okay. So this part is not there, but then epsilon is there, and further from epsilon we are proceeding, plus maybe another notation, say instead of beta, now let me write it as say alpha 1 epsilon t minus 1, alpha 1 epsilon t minus 1. Okay, so this consists of MA1 model t minus 1. Is that fine? MA model, MA1. This is MA1. MA1. Now how all this is achieved or attained, will quickly come to it. Give me only maximum of 15 minutes. I'll quickly say all whatever it is. Then proceeding, suppose we have a combination of both, one or two time periods of autoregressive and one or two time points of MA. Then we have an ARMA model. So in ARMA model, we will have these terms, ARMA, if I say ARMA 1-1 model. Okay, so I have these terms, but it doesn't get over there. I have one more term here which is borrowed from, or say borrowed for, the MA component. See if it is clear. Can you let me know if it is not clear? Please tell me. So what is ARMA? This is an ARMA 1-1 model. 1-1 model. It need not be 1-1. It can be 2-1 also. Like ARMA 2-1 will be this series. Okay. So if I am talking about ARMA 2-1, ARMA 2-1 model, will have 2 plus and then this term plus. Let me take this plus also. Okay. So this is where we have 2 terms of AR and 1 term of MA. Fine. Now, where does this ARIMA come from? ARIMA comes from when, if y is, oh, that is a subscript. Okay, if our y is, if the series under study, let it be stock market price, or let it be price of fuel, let it be price of gold, let it be salary of employees, let it be rate of interest, whatever be the variable under analysis. If yt is not stationary, that is where stationary, what happens? We need to attain stationarity, because right from the first session we are talking about stationarity is the most important attribute which we expect for any time series to perform well, or to utilize its properties for future analysis, or say for predictions. Correct. So if yt is not stationarity, then we call it now this is happening. Okay, all the previous ones, all the ARMA or AR or MA, all of it, we were thinking that the series is stationary. At times it is, okay, at times it is stationary level itself. So we have I0 term. I am sure you all are familiar with I0, I1, etc. You have learned cointegration, so you will be definitely sure about what is I1, what is I0, etc. Okay. I am not. If there is anything, please chat so that I can address to it. Kindly chat so that I can address to it. Now, if in case all whatever we discussed till here is only about whenever we have stationarity. Now we are going ahead with another case where we don't have stationarity. This is the case where we don't have stationarity. If yt does not have stationarity, then what are we supposed to do? We need to attain stationarity. General process stationarity. What is the general process? Differencing. So normal cases difference the data, difference the series and attain stationarity. Normally at one level or one, I mean at first difference itself, usual cases we get stationarity. Rarely we don't. Okay. So in this case, let us assume that if we are getting stationarity at first difference. So what do we say? We will say that y of yt is I1. Right, that is how we generally said. We have learned that in cointegration also. So if yt is I1 and it has got ARMA 1, then we call this as an ARIMA model of order 111. What are those 111s? ARIMA, generally it is written as PDQ. Normally it is written as PDQ. There is some chat, one moment. I0, yeah, yes, ma'am. I thought we have learnt it in the last sessions. I0 means a series. Yes, sure, ma'am. I'm coming to it. I thought maybe you might have missed it. I'm sure we have discussed it. I0 means the given series is stationary. Given series as such is stationary. You don't have to perform any transformation, any other changes. It is in itself stationary. I0. I0 means it is in itself stationary. We don't have to try to attain stationarity. If the series is not stationary, this is the second part what I just now say. If the series is not stationary, that is when we have to attain stationarity. How? Normally by differencing. If yt attains stationarity at first difference itself, then what do we write? And suppose it also has our AR1 and MA1. So we have our ARIMA instead of ARMA 11, ARMA 22, we have ARIMA 111, 211, however. Okay. So what does it generally, the general format of writing it is, general format of writing it will be where this P is a parameter, ARIMA PDQ, in which what all are, what is PDQ? These parameters, PDQ parameters, in that first we will identify D. At which level is it stationary? Okay, at which level does the series attain stationarity? Whether it is at 0, whether it is at 1, whether it is at 2. Normally beyond 2 we do not difference. We will go for some other transformation. We'll take a log. Most of the time you take logarithm of the series, a series which is growing extensively, like we call, there is additive and multiplicative models in time series. Additive models normally will be stationary. They will not have a huge trend with which they are just going exponentially. But multiplicative series normally will have a larger trend. They will increase fast. So such series you can bring them down, their growth, by taking a logarithm of the series. When you take the logarithm of the series, you can reduce the data's growth. The growth of the data, once it is reduced, it will attain stationarity fast, but it will not affect our analysis. We can say that we studied about this series, only thing we have transformed the series to log and then worked on it. We'll quickly go to practical so that we'll understand it better. Okay, so ma'am Usha, I think I explained what it is. Okay, so D is the level at which it attains stationarity. P stands for order of AR. It can be 1 or 2 or whatever, 1, 2, 3, normally not more than that. Very rarely we go for 5, 6, 7. Usually we just ignore them. We don't take, beyond a certain limit when there's auto-regression, we don't consider it. We look at only the immediate past. And Q stands for order of AR, sorry, order of MA. Fine. So you may have a ARIMA. If I write 2, 1, 2, it means both AR and MA components are 2 terms. AR and MA components are 2 terms, and the series is not as such stationary. So how do we write in such case? How do we write it? Let's see how we can write. We will write it like this. Instead of writing YT, normal sense what we do is we will write it as a delta, a triangle. Yeah, this is, or you can write D. We can see that in the software itself it shows as D. D is also fine. But delta will look a little more neat and elegant is what I felt. So I tend to write it as delta. It's up to us. It is up to our wish. So or else you can avoid it. Okay, you need not necessarily write, but this is how we generally indicate that, oh, this is an integrated series. It is an and if it is 2, order 2, we write delta square. Okay, there is something called a backshift operator. We can use that also. Let us stick on to any one way of writing throughout, otherwise it may be confusing. Okay, so I will follow the same thing, and the one more term will be alpha 2 epsilon t minus 2. Alpha 2 epsilon t minus 2. Alpha 2 epsilon t minus 2. So for epsilon, that is the residual, there is no stationarity and all that. Stationarity is only applicable for the series. So when we see this delta or a D written with it, we can understand that, okay, we are talking about this. Or even if you don't write all this, if you have written ARIMA 221, it's understood. Okay, this way also it is seen. People write it this way also. Okay, or even if you don't write all this also, it is understood because there is a 1 here. Fine. So if I say ARIMA 1, 0, 1, what does it mean? What would be the meaning of ARIMA 101? Can I get some response? I know I'm going a bit theoretical. I don't have a choice. Another few minutes I need to explain. Only then I can go to the practical. May I know what would be the meaning of ARIMA 101? Yes. It is. Very good. Yes, correct. So is it necessary to write then? What is this equivalent to? What is this equivalent to? Instead of writing ARIMA, integration at level, exactly, Dr. Kashmira has correctly identified. This is equivalent to writing 1, 1. When that order is 0, it is an ARMA model. I mean, order of stationarity is at 0, at level. The given data itself is stationary. We are happy. It is an ARMA model. Okay. Now, to say all this is fine, but how do we practically understand what are the values of PDQ? Yeah, it is a stationary series, and hence being a stationary series, yes ma'am, that is correct. Being a stationary series, it is equivalent to writing ARMA 1, 1 model. Okay. Now it is not necessary that you get it this way. You may even get ARIMA 1, 1, 0. MA component is not there. MA influence is not there. That also is possible. Fine. Now there is one of the most powerful techniques or tools that are, a procedure that is used for, one moment. I forgot which was the file that I was referring to. No. Yeah. There is the most common procedure with which we refer to or with which we get to know. Yes, here. Yeah. The most common or the most powerful procedure with which we identify the parameters of an ARIMA model is called Box-Jenkins method. It is very popular method, and that is even there aren't any much substitutes or parallel methods of this ease with which you understand or estimate an autoregressive model. And once we have understood it, we can utilize it for future prediction. It will help us in predicting the future. So Box-Jenkins method in ARIMA model estimation has got a few steps It will come for both AR and MA. Which one, madam? Usha, I didn't follow. This can be right. Common ET. If it is 11100, we can write A and yes, should we write? No need to write. If it is no need to write 100, yes, correct. Vimal Kurian, Professor, what you said is perfectly correct. If it is, I'll write that also. AR 100 means it is AR1 only. Then, Madam Usha, I didn't understand what's it out. It will, ET will come for both AR and MA. ET means epsilon. Can we write common ET? ET is what epsilon T. Epsilon is, yes, epsilon, and if that epsilon also has got its own story with past, its own past value, that is where epsilon is also modeled as MA component. MA component is basically epsilon or the error residual, okay, ET. So that E value, okay, now let me not say epsilon, it is E. So error ET, if it does not have much story to say with its own past, then it is an AR model. Okay, but if this epsilon is also related to its own past residuals, so residuals also getting integrated with itself, the series is also getting integrated with itself, that is where we will say it is ARIMA model. When it comes to an example, I'll tell you why, what is the reason that, you know, MA also has got story in it. Okay, before that, 2 minutes where we can just see what is this flow chart. Once we have considered which is the series, check whether there is stationarity, check whether the data is stationary, first step. Okay, and if there is stationarity, then we need to difference it and then get it as a stationary series. Otherwise, it's the first, this diamond shape, I hope is clear. First step, check for stationarity. If your stationarity condition is yes, then we directly proceed to plot a graph called correlogram. Okay, if it is not stationary, take one more step ahead, make it stationary, then proceed to preparing correlogram. The correlogram will help us to understand whether the series is stationary. I mean, what will be the value of P, what will be the value of Q. Okay, what is the value of P and Q? Once those two are identified, then using software we can quickly estimate the model. Okay, by estimating the model, what we mean is to identify the values of these theta 1, theta 2, theta q, etc., mu, and also these phi 1, phi 2, phi 3, whichever you want. Oh, I have written phi 2 again. It is actually phi 3 xt minus 3. Sorry for that. Okay, so all those constants to estimate, that is basically our purpose of the analysis. Find the value of theta 1, theta 2, mu, all that. So that we will be able to get from there. Okay, so yeah, so that estimation part the software will take care, but we have to give the parameter value P, D and Q. P, D and Q we have to determine, or we have to suggest, only then it will estimate. Fine. Now before we proceed, why do we have autocorrelation and partial autocorrelation? It is autocorrelation and partial autocorrelation that causes AR and MA components. These two slides, I'm just switching between them because I want you to know that there are two different slides. Autocorrelation. In correlogram, there are two different graphs. One is called ACF, one is called PACF. Okay, I'll just show you how it looks. One moment, let's come there. Yeah, when I told you differencing, I'm sure all of us know now. How you know how to perform ADF test, you know how to check whether it is stationarity. If it is not stationary, how to achieve stationarity also to an extent we all know. Now, so D, determining D is clear. How to determine P and Q? Okay, I'm sure you have got the objective. We are trying to find out P, D, Q of an ARIMA model. We are trying to find out the P, D and Q values of an ARIMA model. D is the first thing that will come as we check our stationarity. So D is done. Now we have to go with only P and Q, those two components. Okay, for which we plot a graph called correlogram. We will plot a graph called correlogram. In this correlogram, look at only the first two graphs. Don't look at all four. They are distinct. Only they always come in pair. Correlogram always comes in pair. There is an autocorrelation graph and a partial autocorrelation graph. PAC, partial autocorrelation, AC, autocorrelation. Okay, let's try to understand what is partial autocorrelation and what is autocorrelation. Okay, partial auto, suppose we are talking about price of gold this week. It might be influenced by last month, same time. So we are looking at monthly data. And we know that past weeks also might have influenced the price of gold, right? But we don't want, we only want exactly the influence of in between time periods. I don't want. I only want an exact influence of one specific time point. That is what is computed by PAC. Whereas in autocorrelation function, every past lag values are combinedly taken. It is not as such a correlation. Okay, so I hope you saw the two graphs. Now let us come here. Partial autocorrelation coefficient, okay, that graph of coefficient for order k measures the strength of correlation among pairs of entries in the time series while accounting for all the autocorrelations which are below order k. Okay, so that is it will not be considering all of it. It will remove the effect of all other values and it will take only specific. Say for example, partial autocorrelation of order 5 is computed in such a manner that effect of 1, 2, 3 and 4 partial autocorrelations are excluded. Okay, it is like this. Consider we are looking at yield of a plot, yield of a crop. So, and I want to know what is the effect of irrigation on or the humidity value on yield of a crop. I only want to know what is the impact of humidity on yield of a crop. But we know that it is not only humidity, it is the level of irrigation, it is the amount of manure that you have given, if we have what is the soil quality index, lot of other factors influence yield of the crop. But I want to know only the partial effect of humidity on it. In such case, what we do is there is a method in which all other factors are kept fixed. Okay, all other factors, though theoretically, practically we may not do, mathematically when we compute it, all other values will be kept at a fixed rate. That is irrigation at a fixed rate, what is that, soil quality index at a fixed rate, then rainfall at a fixed rate, seed quality at a fixed rate, all that kept fixed. I will change only humidity level and test what is its influence. This is what exactly is happening in partial autocorrelation. So I will get exact importance of past values on present. Okay, when it comes to autocorrelation, what happens? All the values in between influence also comes in. That is where MA component is taken care of, or so that is taken care of MA component. Okay, when it comes to autocorrelation, it will all, thank you sir, it will also consider all the in between factors. So what is that? That is actually noise, that is actually residual, whatever we did not want to include, all that have come in. We were looking at only the influence of yesterday's closing price of index on today. But what happened? US dollar exchange, some political issue in the country, all that have influenced today's closing price. I didn't want that. All that accounts for in our MA component. Only yesterday's index closing price is considered in AR component. I hope I have made it clear. That is where we have ACF and PACF graphs, and always there, you know, my students keep asking, why are we referring to PAC for AR component and AC for MA component? I hope I could explain little bit at least that PAC is the independent effect of past values of Y on present. PAC, the second graph, always it is a second graph. So this PAC value says what is the influence. Here it is, you can see the spikes. Okay, we all have learned correlation in our school days, college days. So we know that the correlation value lies between -1 to 1. Same way here also, autocorrelation also lies between -1 to 1 only. It will not exceed that limit. Now, having understood that, we should check what is called a significant correlation. So what does this 1 stand for? This one says that the present value of y is strongly associated with one lag period yt minus 1. I hope I have made it clear. Yt minus 1. It is also kind of strongly correlated. See, the correlation value is 0.5 or 0.45. The first correlation value is 0.8. Second one is 0.45 or 0.5. Let's look at the height or of the spike. Okay, look at the spike, so we will know. Then when it comes to the third lag, you can see it's very negligible correlation, somewhere close to 0. So we can ignore after that. What does it mean? How many AR components are there? 2. Okay, so we got P as 2 from this graph. Now coming to the MA component is decided from the AC graph. Okay, AC graph will tell us how many MA components are to be incorporated in it, depending on epsilon's autocorrelation with its own past values. So here, similarly, we can see epsilon t minus 1, first lag value, epsilon t minus 1, the first lag value has got almost 0.5 as its autocorrelation value. So that is a significant spike. After that, you can see a steady fall. All of it are 0.2 and below. Normally 0.2 and below is considered to be negligible correlation. We don't consider it as a significant correlation at all. Okay, so how do we decide on how many spike, I mean what is the order of AR and MA is by referring to the values. By referring to these values, we can definitely understand whether what should be the order of AR and MA. So in this series, in the first pair, AR and AC and PAC, we understand that the best fit model most probably will be AR2, MA1. Okay. Similarly, let us look at the second block here. In the second block, what do we trying to remove this. Yeah, what do we find is there are two significant spikes. After that, it is very negligible. So again, AR component seems to be 2. When a spike goes down, it just means that the second order lag is in fact having negative correlation with today. Like when yesterday's price is pushing today, day before price is pulling it back. Okay, so when there is opposite direction these spikes, it just shows how it is related to positive or negative side. Same way, when it comes to AC, also what do we observe? Epsilon t minus 1 is very significant, epsilon t minus 2 also seems to be significant, others are all negligible. Okay, so this is a general rule. Same now, at times what happens is that we may, okay, all these are just graphs. This is how EViews graph generally looks. It doesn't come horizontally, it comes like this vertically down. Is there any other method to find out tentative AR models, means to find out value of P and Q other than looking at the spikes of the correlogram? Normally, no. Otherwise, we should do a trial and error, madam. We should do trial and error, and then there is something called information criteria value. So that we can list down all possible, at least to get some clue. It is mandatory, or it would be best that we refer to this graph to get the tentative value. But this getting tentative value, it's not necessary that it will definitely be a good fit. It might not be. However, if you don't want to do all this, you can go for trial and error. Like you start with after attaining stationarity, you try out 110 or say 10 AR and MA component. I'm telling, I'm not talking about D. P and Q values. What you can do is you go for a trial and error. Say I'll just show that what I'll try to explain what madam asked is okay, screen share itself went off. Okay, what madam was asking, is there any other method by not referring to this particular thing? Yes, we can do that. It may be a little time consuming. What we need to go with is we will have to just prepare a table and then go with trial and error. Okay, like this you can keep on changing the values, and there are 3 or 4 constants or 3 or 4 values with which you can say P and Q, you keep changing. You give 1 1 1 or say 1 0. Okay, or you give 1 1, or you give 0 1. Go ahead like this. Okay, 0 and 1. I hope you are following, ma'am. 0 1, like this you keep changing. There is something called AIC, Akaike's information criteria, or Schwartz information criteria, or one more is there, Bayesian information criteria, BIC, or else look at MSE value, that is mean square error value, mean square error value. Generally we go with information criteria only. There is one more, Bayesian information criteria. Most of the time they all behave together, in the sense when they are decreasing, they decrease together, or they increase together, or at least look at one of the AIC value, pick up the one which gives you least AIC. This will be another method with which you can, but usually we will first at least have a tentative idea about what is P and Q, and then do this trial and error. Yeah, usually we don't do too much of trial and error as such. I doubt whether it is the right method of working with it. Okay. So now I think with that I should be starting with practical, otherwise we may miss out on so many other aspects. Yeah, we should be proceeding to 9.2 discount rate. One moment, I'll just see if I have missed out anything else. Yes, this one slide is very important. What the slide says is, how do you understand what is AR and MA component? Like many a times we have a confusion with respect to how do we identify what is the full form of AIC? Akaike's information criteria, AKAIKE, or Schwartz information criteria, and Bayesian. Ma'am, when we start with the software, we will see the full form of it. Akaike's, Schwartz, and Bayesian, and Han Quinn is also there. We'll see that. Okay. AKAIKE, Akaike's information, IC, information criteria. What did we say? Yeah. How do we understand what is P and Q? We just saw the spikes, isn't it? But then how a general way of getting it is, when you are referring to a correlogram, AC and PAC graphs together, if AC tends to die down, it may not be clear-cut spikes. It is slowly dying down, steadily dying down. Then we do not consider MA component. We will say it is a cutoff at lag P, and it is order ARP model. It is an ARP model. Instead, if it is an MA model, your AC graph will have a sudden cutoff. After 1 or 2 spikes, it will have a sudden cutoff, and the PAC graph will have a slow growing down. If it's a mixed model, either both the graphs will be slowly tending down, or like in the previous example we saw, 1 or 2 spikes will be there, significant for both the graphs, and the other values not significant. So this is how we generally identify whether it is a MA model or AR model, or whether it is an ARMA model. Okay, so these are all examples where we have sudden cutoff. I'm just trying. This is where you see the PAC. PAC has a clear-cut indication. PAC. So there is AR1. AR1 is significant, but MA component, you can see there it dies down slowly. MA component. So this is where we say that the series has got only AR component. There is no MA component in it. Okay, fine. Now I think we need to switch to our software and then start working, because how much ever we explain, unless we see it, unless we get an experience of it, we may not. So I thought I will go with some comfortable data today, which will cater to, which will be very conducive for us. So I'm taking this one. Shall we open Gretel and then start working on it? Yeah. So okay, I think I'll have to minimize my file here. Yes, and the new share must be my screen. Yes, this will be better, so that whenever I switch between, it will be clear. Okay, now I have so we all know that there is a folder, there is a repository. To open that folder, it is easy that we have an open dataset option here. You might have already done open dataset option at the bottom tabs, so we can click on that, and we get to see all the 3 books. You might be having more books, I'm not sure if you have incorporated. I have only Gretel, Green, and Ramanathan. I think you all have even incorporated this one. What is it? Damodar, Gujarati also there. I did not install it. Mine is an older version too. Okay, so Is that fine? How do we open the data set? From here itself we can take the data library from there, and in that, if we refer to Ramanathan, the repository by book by Ramanathan, by Professor Ramanathan. In this, I would like all of us to be working on a file 9.2, I think. Yes, 9.2 US dollar, because I thought let us first learn the process and then go to problems or difficulties of it. So when we double click on it, this series opens. Okay, so this is a view the okay. Usually the variable, and it's if the variable has got some explanation, it will be explaining it here somewhere. Summary of the variable is there. If we want to know further more about this variable, it will be available somewhere somewhere over there. It gives us what are those variables and what does it talk about, etc. For now we'll just go with it. We will take up the first variable, discount rate. I assume all are with me. I'm going to take, this is a time series data. It's a time series data, and I'm going to take discount rate as my variable. So when I double click on it, the series opens. Okay, so I'll not have to, if I want to view a line graph, a time series plot of R. Yeah, this is the time series plot of R, of that rate of interest, I think, isn't it? Discount rate. Okay, so we all know how to make beautification, all that sir has already taught us. So if I'll just keep it here, I'll just keep it. We are going to go through the steps we are going to analyze and understand how this particular series can be modeled, right? So first, as the first step, we would like to see how is the line graph. Line graph seems to have a little bit of volatility, but we are not very clear whether it is stationary or not, right? We're not very clear because it seems to be stationary, but volatility, I mean variance, seems to be not very constant. Such problems are there. So instead of intuitions, what we can do, let us as the first step okay, are we all very clear about what we are going to do? We are trying to fit the best ARIMA model for prediction of discount rates. This is our objective. Okay, so as the first step, we need to determine P, the parameters P, D, Q for the model by Box-Jenkins method. This is our work. Fine. So firstly we will determine, so we just saw the graph, we couldn't understand exactly whether it is stationary. So instead of intuitions, what we'll do, we will go with stationarity test. I'll just increase the font size, one moment. Okay, no, it did not happen, but yes, this is better. Now what next? So since I couldn't understand clearly whether it is stationary, I am going for stationarity test. Okay, so the series, first we will have the series in level, isn't it? Generally we will first test the series at level. Series at level means series as such, whether it is stationarity. So if I am proceeding with ADF test, we know that there is a T statistics or a TAU statistic followed by a P value. Based on that, we will be saying whether it is stationary or not. So what is the null hypothesis for stationarity test using ADF? The series is stationary or not stationary? What is the null hypothesis for ADF test? I'm sure all of us discussed it. Here it is that the series is non-stationary. The series has unit root. The series, yes, exactly. The series has not got stationarity, or the series is having a statistic. Yeah, the series has got a unit root is the null hypothesis. So we say that unit root, yes, it's presence of unit root or absence of stationarity is a null hypothesis. So based on the p-value, we will decide. Okay, so let us proceed to that. Fine. So here, where do we proceed? Where do we get not stationarity? Exactly, yes. So how do we proceed to it? Click on the variable, and in the variable tab, we have the process of unit root test. I know that we all have done it quite a number of times. So you're thorough with that. And when we proceed with it, actually there is no trend in it. We can go without trend only. Constant and trend is actually not required, but let it be. We didn't see any trend in the graph. Basically, that graph will help us to also understand whether there is trend. So can you please share the content and the Word docs after the session? Sure. Yes, I shall do that. Okay, so here this is a set where I feel this part, the first block of it is what is to be checked and not the second block, because there was no trend in the series. We saw the graph, it just went up and then it came down. There wasn't any increasing or decreasing tendency, but most of the time lag order we'll come to it. We'll come to it now. Lag order, we'll come to it. We are yet to be there, right? We are just checking for stationarity. Then we'll decide about the lag order. Okay. D first and then PQ. Yeah. So when we refer to the first block, what is the tau statistic value? Are we all getting it as minus 2.73775? Let me write it here. I'll put it side by side so that I can also write and see the values. That will be better. So that we know that all these softwares will give a lot of junk. So let us take only whatever we require. So we write here minus 2 point, sorry, control Z, and here minus 2.77 with what is the p-value? 0. What is the p-value? 0.06 0.06767. So what is our conclusion? Accept H naught. Correct? Accept H naught. So when we accept H naught, the series is not stationary. The series is not stationary. Correct. This is actually larger than 0.05, our 5% cutoff value. So we accept H naught. When we accept H naught, I mean to say when you ran the ADF, when you clicked OK, lag is fine, default. Yeah, that is normally 1/3 or 1/4 of the entire series. That is a default setting. The algorithm is set. If you want to change, we can change. Generally, it's a default setting for lag. Yes. Yeah, so hence accept H naught. When you accept H naught, what do we say? Non-stationarity. The series is not stationary, The series is not stationary. So what are we supposed to do? We need to perform once again the analysis and check whether it is attaining stationarity in the first difference. So we use first difference here. Instead of level, we use first difference here. I hope I'm going quite slowly. I usually have a tendency to run with it. So please let me know if I'm going very fast. And we take the difference variable. Okay. That is one reason why I'm typing in between, so that all will get time to work also along with me by the time I figure out the values. So here I think we are getting something that is helpful for us at the first difference. At first difference, RENCE, at first difference we are getting it proper. What is it? What is the test statistic value? Now it is minus 0.8, no, 45 minus 4.54408 with a p-value which is very much feasible for us, 1231589. This is less than 0.05 or even 0.01. Hence we have attains stationarity, right? The series attains stationarity at first difference. I hope it's clear till there for all, and please ensure you all have got these numbers as such along with me. I'll try to fit it and make it a bit neat. No, it is not. Because of too many values over there, it is not fitting in. It's better now. Yes. Okay, so it's clear till there. That means we are going to have, can you repeat the step? Yes, which step? Which step am I supposed to repeat? Is it the stationarity test? I shall do that. That's my data I miss. Yeah, here. In this, what? Oh no, I should be. Sorry for that. Sorry for the confusion. I'm switching between the windows. It's making a mess. Yeah. So this is my Gretel window. I'm here. I have picked up the first variable. I'm not bothered about the others. In fact, this data may be useful for some other analysis. We are trying to learn AR model or ARMA model or ARIMA model. So we are trying to find out. I got p-value 0.45. Is it 4597? 4597. One moment. I'll just see, ma'am. Dr. Kashmira, 2 minutes. Repeat the step of stationarity is what Sunita as well as Shashi Kumar professor, they have both have said. So let me quickly repeat the step. Discount rate is selected. Variable is selected. The tab of variable, click on tab variable. Come to unit root test. ADF, augmented decoupleur test. Okay, click on that. By default, it will be with constant and the trend and use of level of variables. This we did last class also. When we go with level of variables, I'm explaining both the steps to both of you, Shashi Kumar sir and Sunita madam. I'm explaining the first step, raw data. We are checking whether it is stationary. So is this window fine? When we click on it, what happens? You get an answer like this. Okay, then I am referring to test with constant and I am not referring to the one with trend because we didn't find the trend in the series. It wasn't growing or falling. So I am going with the first block, this block. Okay. And when I go with that, I have here the test statistic value, minus 2.73573775 with an asymptotic p-value 0.67. That is what I wrote here, 06767. Now, Dr. Kashmira, I hope this is not the place where you got it that way, correct? Lag you don't select, ma'am. Let's go with the default setting. It is, I'll just confirm, as per what I understand, it is 1/4 of the length of the series. It takes that many lag. There is some algorithm with which, optimal lag is considered. So better we don't change the lag. It is an iteration lag. So we don't have to bother about it. Okay, a lag I am not selecting at all. It is by default setting. For each data, it will keep changing. So the default setting will be the best and the optimal lag that would have been chosen. So let's not change it. And this lag length is different from our AR and MA. There we have to choose. This is for the iterative process. What is the lag? So don't bother about it. That default lag we will go with. Now what are we? Yeah, okay. So this we saw that it is not stationary. Hence, once again, click on variable and unit root test and ADF itself and check on the second one. Use first difference of variables, the second block. Use, ma'am, how we got assumed, what does it actually mean? Okay. Default lag, Liji ma'am, it is 1/4 of the entire length of the data series. If you have a very long data series, it takes almost 1/3 or 1/4 of the series as its lag time. Zero lag, okay. Where here in this itself, order lag you mean to say 0? No, we don't do ADF with 0 lag anyhow. Here it is 7 then. So that is the length of the data and is that the length of the data? Liji ma'am, I didn't see how many observations are there. Yeah, and I'll just see. And asymptotic p-value means 35. Okay, so 35, then it must be two-third of it. I'll just check once and say what exactly is the value. I remember it as 1/3 of the length of the time series. 1/3 of the time series. So if it is, it should be like somewhere around 1/3 of 35 will be close to it, correct? It should be. That is a normal setup with which we go with how many lags it has to be. Okay. And asymptotic p-value, Sir Gaurav was asking what is asymptotic p-value. It is asymptotic, the term asymptotic just refers to What does it mean by asymptotic p-value is as the sample size grows, or what is the p-value, that is the probability that is attained as the sample size grows. What more I will explain about asymptotic is, it is not an exact value, but as the sample size grows, what is the probability tending to? What is the probability? That is a kind of a statistical term that we use, wherein you don't get an exact value, but where does the series value tends to as the series grows is what we can say about asymptotic p-value. Okay. So now we are proceeding to the second difference value, and in the second difference, I think Madam Kashmira was telling she got 4.7. I did not get that value at all yet. Even in the second trial, I'm getting the same. P-value is minus 4.544. Sorry, T statistic is 4.544 with a minus sign, and P-value is 0.0000. Most of the time they both will be agreeing. I mean, here it is not agreeing to each other. Okay, because you can see the second value again, it will create problem. It says that there is no stationarity. So this is a series without trend. That is one reason why we plot the graph and confirm what is the tendency of the series, whether it is increasing or decreasing. It is set to lag 0. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Use any lag order. It must be permissible to use. Actually, I will once again confirm anyway on Monday if there is any strict rule. A normal rule of thumb is go with 1/3 of the time order. Okay, a normal rule. But we don't generally, most of the time the algorithm in the software will be fit in such a way that it will select the optimal lag order. So better that we don't change it and we go with it. It is better that we don't change it unless we have some specific concern or specific work that is to be performed. Software's selection would be better. Okay. Now, I think Shashi sir, I think I addressed to that. How we write it. Okay, so we write here that the series attains stationarity. The series is I1. Series is integrated at order 1. So we got the value of D is equal to 1. We got the in PDQ, one task is done. Okay, we have achieved one task and we have got the value of D as 1. Now when we proceed to find P and Q, how do we proceed and find P and Q? For that, once again click on the same, select the variable. When you select the variable and then proceed, come to correlogram. Okay, so we will be obtaining two different graphs there. Shall we proceed? Just click on discount rate and then go for correlogram. Here also, let us proceed with the same default maximum lag of 7 itself. Okay. So when we refer to this graph, what we find is, okay, here there are just 7 lags. That is why it is looking very small graph also. Okay. And the first lag here, so let us first refer to the PACF graph. Let us refer to PACF graph, the second half. Okay. So here you can see that the first series is significant, or the first lag autocorrelation is significant. Second also seems to be significant. Here the orange line in fact is a limit beyond which we can consider the correlation to be significant. The orange lines, for those who remember having learned confidence interval estimation, might remember that below this two lines, whatever correlation is there, it is not that significant. If a correlation is exceeding the limit, then we say that that correlation is significant. Now, here this is a problem where we can see that in PAC graph, there is a significant spike for order 1 and a significant spike for order 2. But for order 3 onwards, they are very, very negligible. They go very negligible. Whereas, if you refer to the the graph of ACF, the top one, okay, the above one, the ACF graph, we already saw that PACF is what speaks about Y series on its own past data. ACF is the graph which talks about E, epsilon, residuals, epsilon T. So AR component, I think we have understood. What should be the AR component? I'll do that. 2 minutes. I'll repeat the step. One moment, please wait. So the AR component is clear from here. There are 2 spikes. So probably AR2 must be a good fit for this series. How about MA component? Should we go with MA component? This is a series. In fact, you can see that it is slowly dying down. It is not a sudden cutoff. The series is not a sudden cutoff. Here, see, the value was here, then it is steadily decreased, then it is steadily decreasing, it is decreasing and going. This is actually called dying down or an exponential decay of the series. Okay. Now, if we feel that no, there are 3 components which are very significant, after that it is not significant, like someone who asked me in the beginning, without referring to this graph, shall we do a trial and error? We will probably have to do a trial and error in this case. Okay. By our rule, by Box-Jenkins rule, what we should take is we should take only AR2. We don't even have to take MA component because it is a exponential decay of the values. You can see it is not like this zigzag. It is not like all on a sudden. Refer to the PAC graph. There is a significant 2 spikes, then not very significant. Still it is not declining. It is not exponentially decaying. It is just like that, some spikes, after some time again there is a significant spike. There is no pattern, right? This is where we are sure there is AR factor in it. But MA component probably may not be significant. It may be significant also. We need to try it out. So MA component, if at all it is there, we have to check only up till MA 1, 2 and 3. The rest of it will not be there. Same way AR, we need to check only AR 1 and 2. Okay. So here let us try to correlogram. From the correlogram we can see that PAC graph we have 2 spikes, 2 significant spikes. So we can write the value of P as 2. From the AC graph, I would right now I will say it is an exponential decay. It doesn't show as such any spike, or if you have a confusion we can say that, or else it is 3 spikes which are above that. Okay. So this is where we will have to do trial and error, and trust me, none of the time series will directly give you any answer at a stretch. We will not be able to get any of the series in one shot. Just like that, we will have to do little bit of trial and error and fit it, because after these steps again we have residual analysis. Our residuals, you remember in the slide it was shown, epsilon should be white noise. The residuals after all this, they have to also not have they should have a constant mean, constant variance, normal distribution, all that is there. So that is also tedious task. So we are just doing the first half of it alone. Okay. Now let us proceed with it. Till here I hope I have explained all of it. D, P, Q, roughly we have got D, clearly we have got D is 1, P, clearly we have got P is 2, MA component we doubt. Okay, so let's proceed. Let us, however, do trial and error and understand how the model would be, or which is the model that would be the best fit. We will proceed to the model. Univariate time series. Okay, now we are proceeding to the next tab. We never came here, right? We were till now in the variable tab. Now we are in the model tab. Under model tab, there is the option of ARIMA, which we will be picking up. And in this ARIMA model, we have a dialog box which requires us to provide the dependent variable. We are referring to discount rate, so R. Okay, and it's very easy. It's so very user friendly. AR component is 2. So reduce AR, increase AR component to 2. I, that is our D value. D is 1, right? For now, let me just keep MA as 0 and see how it works. Not very sure whether it will work. It might not, because I felt it is an exponential decay. If it is a significant value, we shall come back to it. Are the steps clear? We just came to click. No need to even click on the variable. Okay, we can just like that go to model and pick up univariate time series and ARIMA. Univariate time series and ARIMA. Fine. And from there, when we proceed, you get this dialog box. I hope I'm sharing my screen completely. Yes, it is there. Yeah. Okay. So in this series, in this dialog box, pick up the variable which we are concerned of, that is R, and change the AR order to 2, because that we are sure. change the D value to 1, which is by default will be 0. 101 is a default set in this that we are changing. MA I am just changing down to 0 and we'll see. Can we proceed? When we proceed, we find it good. We find the model to be good. Okay, it is fine. It looks good because this is our constant C. This is our alpha, say beta 1. Beta 1 value is 0.578716. Is it significant? Yes, it is significant. See the p value for the variable, that particular variable yt minus 1, it is significant. Second one, this is also significant. So it seems to be a good model. Not necessarily, we need to do a little trial and error there, but at least this much is clear. Let me just fix it. I'll just show how to write it, how to present it in our paper. So we assume that the model estimation. So to estimate the hypothesis model, what is our hypothesis model? Estimation, to estimate the model, DEL, ARIMA 210, right? 210 is what we require, ARIMA 210. So what is our hypothesis model? Hypothesis model is defined as, just a moment, I'll just scroll up. I'm lazy to type in again. It is here. We have kept ARIMA 212, no? So from here, let us take this and go. Yes, this one, and I'll delete unwanted terms because it is MA component. As of now, we have kept it 0, no? So we'll just see. This is my hypothesis model, DYT. Why I have written D? I don't have to necessarily, I don't have to necessarily write D because it is mentioned here 1. So it is understood my variable is Y. But if you are not representing it that way, at least when we teach students, it is better that we mention a difference to data will be indicated, because we saw the software itself will give D underscore the variable. So it is easy for everyone to understand, okay, this is a difference to series. It's not the raw data that is working there. Fine. Now, where is our model that we have got? How do we estimate? Oh God, how many windows? Yes. So this is the variable. This is the window, and here is my series. Yes. How do we write it? We will write it like this. So the estimated model will be the same thing. Yt is equal to, but with a small difference. What is the value of C? The value of C constant. It is 0.46. 0.46558. Enough. 4 decimal places are sufficient. Then beta 1 coefficient, here it is written as phi 1, phi phi 1. Okay, I just wrote it as beta, that's all. 5787. And beta 2, what did we get? Minus. See, there was, you remember the spike was towards the down, that is why it has become minus. The regression correlation is negative, hence that second past lag value will always have a tendency to pull down the present or future. So that is why it is negative, minus 0.4104 plus yt. That's it. Okay, but it doesn't end there. Okay, we have done only half of the work. Now here is where I remember one sir was asking me what is AIC. See this, Akaike's information criteria, then Schwartz criterion, then instead of Bayesian, here Bayesian IC is there, BIC. Instead of that, they have given Hanquin information criteria. Either of it is fine. Mostly AIC is very popular, maybe because it is the first one in the alphabetic order. AIC is commonly used. Akaike's information criteria is commonly used. In these kind of models, we generally don't refer to R square and adjusted R square as we do it in regression. A normal procedure is we don't want to. Okay. But one point we should check is test the significance of each coefficient. This is to be confirmed, each coefficient. So what is it? I am talking about these two numbers. Okay, here you can see the p-value 0.0002 and the second p-value 0.000066. They both. Okay, so here we can write that the z-test, or it might be a t-test also. However, a z-test for The z-test for significance of each coefficient has a p-value. We don't have to bother much about the t-statistic. It is a t-statistic that will lead to generating a p-value. So significance of each of the coefficients, the z-test for provides p-value less than 0.05 or even 0.01. Okay, it is actually 0.01, not even 0.05, it is 0.01. Okay, so this is how it proceeds. It goes like this. One moment. Yeah. Okay, 0.01, hence significant. So that part is clear. Whatever we have considered as a variables, they are significant. We need to do trial and error. You know why? Because our AIC, BIC values, the AIC, what do you mean by information criteria? Let me try to explain what it is. Information criteria functions are those functions which will tell us what is the magnitude of loss of information due to modeling. Simple example, you take arithmetic mean. You have 100 observations. We took arithmetic mean. We are very happy that our number 100 has reduced to 1 and we are using it for further interpretation or analysis or comparison. But imagine the volume of loss of information. We have lost on so many informations like what is the variability in the data, how many observations are there, how many observations are in between 0 to 10, 10 to 20, all that we have lost, right? So that is basically kind of meaning of loss of information or what we are losing out of modeling. Same way, when we use ARIMA model, when we are fitting in autoregressive model, for that matter, any of the models, we lose a lot of information of the raw data. So which is that model which minimizes the loss of information? That is best. Which is that model which minimizes any information criteria? Okay, the one model which minimizes the model which minimizes the information criteria. IC stands for information criteria, is said to be the best one. Okay, that is why I said let us do trial and error and see. For this case, AIC, let us look at only one for the time being. Okay, AIC is 111.0298, right? So let us just do one trial. We'll just change this and put it across. We haven't done through. Okay, one more, maybe what shall we do? We shall just do a trial. I'll close this. Anything else to be explained in this? Yes, we have to actually do the tests. We will come to it. We have to see, I told you, residuals are very important here. Okay, fine. Let me complete this here. AIC is 111. I'm not sure whether this is the best model. We are proceeding to residual analysis. Okay, so if you want to know how your actual and fitted data is, this is how it has come. It looks good. Actual and fitted values looks good. Okay, you also want to see the residual. After this, you can also see that residual plot against time. You can also see residuals doesn't seem good. They are fluctuating between 2 to -3. The residuals may not be great. Okay, there I don't think this is the best fit model. For graphs, we can see here against time. If you plot them, this is how the graph of actual and fitted values appear. No, it did not happen. Control said it did not come. I think color I have to copy to clipboard as color and then Control V. Yeah, so this is the actual and fitted. We need to, as usual, we need to do all beautification. That I'm pretty sure sir has spend enough time on it, so I'm not doing that. Now what we proceed is, I want to check for, God, so many results. I'm only finding it confusing. Where is our model? This is our model. Yes, only in that model output you will find this option of did I explain how to find P, Q and D, and we got an fitted model. We are just proceeding ahead. We didn't finalize on the model. We are just doing one step ahead and then we'll come back here to do trial and error. What more we need to do is, we need to do residual analysis. Okay, for residual analysis, if you click on tests, this option will not be in any other window, not even in the data, not even in that variable window you will get. This will be only in our output window, because this specifically caters for residual analysis. What do you mean by residual? Whatever we have, actually the data was there, we have got some predicted value, the difference between them is called residual. Okay, so in the residual, first thing what we have to check is whether the series is stationary. We should check whether it has got any constant variance, heteroscedasticity. We say the residuals should not have heteroscedasticity. If it is there, that is what we are planning to capture in the next session. Heteroscedasticity models, volatility capturing, okay, arch models there. So if you check with arch model for order 1, yes, it says it is good. The residuals, I'll just copy it as such. Rich text, yes, rich text format itself, let it come, RTF. Okay, what are we doing now is we have fit the model. Though we haven't finalized, we are doing residual analysis. Okay, in residual analysis, first one is test for heteroscedasticity of the residuals. It might feel a little complicated. Nothing. It is very simple. It is as simple as this. Is the variance constant? That's all. Okay, the term looks very high funda, but it's very simple. Is the constant? Is the variance constant? Is the residual variance constant? Residual. And thankfully, most of the softwares will give us what is the null hypothesis. It's actually not easy. There are many tests. There is something called White's test. There are other few more tests. I forgot the other ones. White's test is the most common, so I think that's the one that this is one with respect to same thing, White's test only. So here, when we perform White's test, you don't bother about the table, just refer to the last 2-3 lines. This is enough for us. This is sufficient. Null hypothesis, no arch effect. Arch effect is autoregressive conditional heteroscedasticity. That means whether there is a conditional heteroscedasticity in residuals. It should not be there. Your residuals should have a constant variance. And what do we get? We get a p-value which is 0.606. Does it make sense? Or is it too much? I hope I think I am explaining it kind of okay. I don't know. Now that there is so much of silence, even I am getting a doubt whether I'm reaching you all. Okay, so we say that no heteroscedasticity. There is no heteroscedasticity for the residuals. We have accepted the null hypothesis. No heteroscedasticity for the residuals. I don't think it is very clear, no? Because this p-value is more than 0.05. Therefore, accept H0. This is a common rule, right? We will accept H0. What is our H0? There is no arc effect. That means there is a constant variance. Yes, ma'am, that is what we wanted. We wanted to accept no arc effect, no arc effect. NO. This is NO. No arc effect is present. We wanted that to get accepted. And we got it. If we didn't get, we will have to remodel it. We will have to go back and recheck what is the problem there. So here that is set. That's what I said, using it is not that easy. Just like that you get a model. My Gretel hung. I could not generate the model. Oh God. Okay, ma'am, can we just close that Gretel once and open it? It is in Ramanathan text file 9.2. We will be sharing the recording only at the end of the sessions, because I think they are putting it all, editing and putting, because there is a lot of unwanted discussion coming in. So they're just editing and putting only the required part, and that too into the college website or their channel. So it might take some time, but we will be repeating the same process again because we need it. I know with one day it will not, it is not sufficient. And also we are doing seasonal ARIMA. So this repetition will be there, nothing to worry. Yeah, we can accept a p-value is more than 0.05. When a when a p-value is more than 0.05, generally we accept the null hypothesis. And here the null hypothesis is that there is no arc effect. So the variable, what was that? So the residuals seem to be having one quality which is acceptable. Yes. Then second one, we need to test whether there is normality in the residuals. Fingers crossed. We should have normality. Oh God, there is normality in the data. There is normality in the graph. I mean, in the series also. I'll tell you how. I just picked up the, yes, there is, you can see there is a graph and a window of result which says test for normality of the, here, this one. Okay, all this put together in a paper only will make it complete, will make it look complete. So what is this? This is the second part. Second part of it is test for normality of residuals. We call this as, property IID, independent and identically distributed variables. White noise means they have to be IID with constant mean 0 and variance very minimal. So all that is happening in this case. So test for null hypothesis. So this is the second part. We are under residual analysis. Okay, model fit is done. We are under residual analysis. And under that, test for heteroscedasticity, we passed it. Test for normality also we are passing. Test for null hypothesis of normal distribution. Here, the null hypothesis is that the residuals have or follow normal distribution. Okay, or normal distribution is a good fit. Normal distribution, and we are again getting a chi-square and a value greater than 0.05. Therefore, accept H naught. Accept H naught. The benefit, unlike many other tests, here the null hypothesis is quite different for econometrics. So most of the softwares, for that matter, they define the null hypothesis there itself. Within the window itself, they will also give us what is the value. Okay, so this is also done. What was that? Repeat the normality test. Yes, sure. Okay, so normality test we obtain from the same result output window. Here we are in the output window, tests normality of residuals. Okay, shall I go? Normality of residuals, when you click, you have two different things that pop up. One is a graph, second is this window. Maybe it is hidden below, so just pick it up and it gives you here the last line. Don't look at, a lot of junk comes up with every value that is actually fitting of the normal distribution over there. Okay, what is happening above that. So we are not concerned about all that. We will go with only the practical aspects, and you can see the mean of this residual is very, very small. See, normal mean is 0.0017. Variance is constant, very close to 1. So thereby this model seems to be really good. Okay, this model seems to be very good. Now, I hope I have explained to an extent. We will just quickly do one. Is there any step in between that I need to explain? AIC is meaningless if we are not comparing across a group of a group of models. Say now I have a doubt whether it is MA1 component would help. We don't see p-value for normality. Yes, we do see p-value for normality. I'll show you what I have written here. Residual analysis 1, 2. What did I write here? See this p-value, chi-square test. Who asked it? I missed. Usha, madam, check that. See 2.5, p-value 0.27, more than 0.0, accept H naught. It is, we are referring to p-value. We are very subjective in our conclusions. We don't look at the graph, or we are not going with intuitions. We are going with only the test statistic and its p-value. Okay. I hope it's kind of okay till there. One more problem when we do in the next session on Monday, quickly, and then we will proceed to seasonal ARIMA or heteroscedasticity. It would be fine. Yes. Okay. So now we had a doubt by referring to this. Yeah. What is the other one? I think it is almost getting. Is there any threshold value for AIC? No, Dr. Jitendra. There is no threshold value. That's what I was about to say. This AIC value is actually meaningful only if you want. Like in this case, I have a doubt whether is this a good model, whether I can have a better value for it. Okay, so in such case, as in the beginning how I said, when we are not very sure about which is the model that we need to take, it is better that we go with a group of it. Say I'll take a P here, I'll take a Q here, and I'll define AIC value each time. So for me 2, 0 gave me 111.0298, right? AIC and along with it MAC or BIC, any 1 or 2 if you want you can take. Let me not confuse with too many values. This graph was a little tricky, so I went with it because I found this decaying, but many of you may not be convinced with that aspect. So what I would like to do is I wish to once again run the analysis. I picked up the first window. I picked up the first window and I am going with the model selection once again, univariate ARIMA. So in that R, in that I am changing that MA component to 1. Let us see whether AIC varies. See, MA component is not good and our AIC increased. See what happened? I took MA2. So you can see there is a third line that has come. This is my MA component. That is not even significant. Got it? It is not significant. Moreover, my AIC value has a tendency to increase. It became 112.7764. Here it is. AIC criterion has also improved. What is that? I took it for 2, 1. This is where initially I forgot that person's name who asked me, is it necessary to refer to the graph and then decide? Not necessary at all. Sometimes the graph is so very confusing that you will not know which one to take. There will be spikes, there may not be spikes, the spikes may be very low, but we have decided to go with that particular variable, or it's a part of our analysis we need to understand. Then this is all the possibilities wherein we can have some clue. Okay. I think I did justice to an introducing AR model, but I know that we will have to do a few more. I'll just show you one more file where that ACF graph is very clear. Let me take some Dow Jones or something like that. Normally our financial data is all AR models. They don't come as MA component. I think in Gretel there are so many. Okay, yeah, let me just take one file. Okay, in Gretel I just took a box Jenkins. In this, if I am plotting a correlogram, yeah, this is where you're very clear, this is an AR model. Now the confusion is only, oh, I'm not able to drag it this side, right? It's not coming. Okay, yeah, here you can see that it is only AR component. MA is steadily there, but we will not consider MA because it is not dying off, it is not exponentially going down, but it is steady there. So that MA component is not going to help us. We will go with only the second one, or else what we do, we will reframe the data. What we'll take a logarithm of the data and then check what is a correlogram. That might make more, oh no, it is more or less the same thing. It is the same thing that we are getting even if we are taking log. Okay, so these are the different correlograms which we will have to refer to and then decide on the parameter values of P, Q. D anyway will get fixed initially itself. I think it's time that I need to stop. If there are any specific queries with respect to this, or else Monday we will do one more example. Probably I'll see if there is something within the library. I'll go with that itself. If I don't get, please do share all the contents in our group. Which one? This file do you actually require? This file is not, I'll just share it here. Okay, it is not complete. Next class I will type it fully, the full report of an AR model, and then present it in downloads. Let me just save it as AR model trial. Okay, please don't consider this as a proper file. I'm just sharing it. I think I can share. I'll see if I can share it. Where is my window? Stop share. And in this, not sure if I can. Sir was telling me to log in properly so that I can share a file. Yeah, yes, today I can share a file. Sir had told me, please don't consider this as a proper file. I'm taking a bail so that, do not show it off to anyone also, because I have just written it. Next class, I'll prepare the template so that I can fill in the values and it will look like a complete report for a proper model. And preferably I'll do with AR and MA component so that we know how to write both, how to refer to both, and then proceed to seasonal ARIMA modeling. PPT is there? Yeah, okay. PPT last day, because my PPT is running. The entire series, I thought I'll put it into one PPT. So it is up till only GARS I have prepared. Few more are to be. Yeah. Thank you so much, dear participants, for your patient listening. And if there is, I didn't find any queries, so I think we can close. Raju sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Resource person, Dr. Jyoti Manohar. Ma'am, Associate Professor, Kishanji College, for your informative session. And thank you for the participants for your valuable presence.
Yeah.
Topic will be discussed tomorrow is heteroscedasticity models.
Could be
And
not necessary, sir. I seriously doubt whether we'll be able to reach there.
yes, ma'am.
One more time we'll have to run this, and according to the time, if you know arts gas really requires time, probably I'll take seasonal arima. That might be little easier because it will be a continuation.
Fine, ma'am.
Next 3 days I'll only be torturing all of you also.
Yeah, tomorrow,
Yes,
resource
yes.
person
Sir,
be
Monday.
madam only.
Yes,
Thank you, ma'am.
Monday onwards, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, ma'am. Yeah, on Monday.
tomorrow, no, Monday only.
Monday. Yes, exactly. Thank you, all of you.
Yeah.
Post you could end the session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.